I never thought I'd be the kind of person who waited years just to get even. I used to believe karma handled everything, that if you stayed quiet and did the right thing, life would balance itself out. I was wrong. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and sometimes the person who was pushed into the dirt has to stand back up and make sure the ones who bury them never forget it. This happened over the span of 7 years, and for most of that time, I stayed silent. I met my best friend Mark in college. We bonded fast, the kind of bond where people assumed we'd known each other since childhood. Same sense of humor, same late-night ambitions, same broke student struggles. We talked about starting a business together one day, promised each other that if one of us ever made it big, we'd pull the other up with them. After college, life hit us differently. Mark's parents were well connected. Mine weren't. He landed a cushy job through a family contact. I bounced between internships, freelance work, and part-time gigs just to pay rent. Still, I never resented him. I was genuinely proud. When Mark came to me with an idea for a startup, I didn't hesitate. It was a tech service aimed at small businesses, something I had actual experience in. I handled the operations, the back-end systems, the client onboarding, and most of the actual work. Mark handled the vision, the meetings, and the talking. We agreed verbally that it was a 50-50 partnership. No paperwork at first. That was my first mistake. The company grew fast, faster than either of us expected. Within a year, we had real clients, real money, and real pressure. That's when Mark started changing. He stopped including me in meetings. He spoke about the company as if it was his alone. When I brought it up, he laughed and said I was being insecure. Then came the paperwork. One evening, he sent me documents and told me they were just formalities required by investors. I trusted him. I skimmed, didn't fully understand the legal language, and signed. That was my second mistake. 3 months later, I was locked out of everything. Email, servers, financial dashboards, client databases. My calls went unanswered. When I finally got him to meet me, he showed up with a lawyer. He calmly explained that I was never an official partner. According to the documents I signed, I was an independent contractor whose services were no longer needed. The company was his. The clients were his. The work I built belonged to him. I remember sitting there numb while his lawyer talked about fair compensation. They offered me 3 months of severance. It wasn't even a fraction of what I'd earned for the company. When I looked at Mark, my best friend, the guy who once slept on my couch because he couldn't afford rent, he wouldn't meet my eyes. He just said, "This is business. Don't take it personally." I took it personally. I didn't fight it. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't have the money, the energy, or the emotional strength. I walked away with nothing. My reputation took a hit too, because Mark quietly told people I was unreliable and difficult to work with. For a long time, I was angry. The kind of anger that eats you alive. I replayed conversations, imagined confrontations, thought about public callouts, but eventually anger burned out and turned into something colder and sharper. Patience. I rebuilt my life quietly. I took contracts under my own name. I worked insane hours. I learned everything I could about business law, data compliance, cybersecurity, and corporate structures. I didn't just want to succeed. I wanted to understand how people like Mark operated. Over the years, I kept tabs on his company from a distance. Not obsessively, just enough to know what direction it was going. And Mark got cocky, very cocky. He started bragging online, doing podcasts, giving advice about ethical entrepreneurship. It made my skin crawl. That's when I noticed cracks. His company expanded too fast. They cut corners. I recognized old systems I had built. Systems that were never designed to scale the way he was scaling them. I also noticed something else. They were collecting user data they had no legal right to collect. Worse, they weren't securing it properly. I didn't act immediately. I waited. I built my own company, slowly and legally. We did everything by the book. I hired experts, lawyers, compliance officers. We gained credibility. Then when the time was right, I positioned my company as a competitor. Not aggressively, just quietly better. Clients started switching. That's when Mark reached out after years of silence. He messaged me like nothing had happened. Told me he admired what I built. Suggested we catch up. I agreed. Not because I wanted closure, but because I wanted information. Over drinks, he complained about stress, about regulators being annoying, about how hard it was to stay ahead of competitors. He accidentally revealed more than he meant to, about how they handled data, about how audits were mostly bluff. I smiled, nodded, and listened. Then I waited another year. During that time, I documented everything. Public statements, client complaints, job listings that implied questionable practices. I consulted anonymously with regulatory experts and confirmed what I already suspected. What his company was doing wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. I didn't report him immediately. Instead, I prepared a full, airtight dossier. Timelines, evidence, screenshots, archived pages, technical explanations written in plain language. I handed it over to the appropriate authorities, quietly, professionally, and anonymously. Then I stepped back. The investigation took months. Mark had no idea it was coming. When it hit hard. Audits, frozen accounts, clients panicking, media inquiries. The same press that once praised him now questioned his integrity. I watched from afar as his company unraveled. Investors pulled out, employees jumped ship, lawsuits followed. Eventually, the company shut down. The final twist came when a journalist reached out to me. They had discovered my early involvement in the company and wanted my side of the story. I told the truth, calmly, with evidence. I never mentioned revenge. I never raised my voice. I just explained what happened. The article went viral. Mark tried to contact me again. This time, his messages weren't confident. They were desperate. Apologies, excuses. He said he was under pressure back then, that he never meant to hurt me, that he hoped I could help him get back on his feet. I didn't reply.